She could do so much better than you. Her mother sighed after I proposed. My girlfriend just giggled and nodded. I said, "You're right." Took the ring back, left the restaurant, and changed the locks that night. The next day, she came home to her boxes outside and a note. Go do better. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I used to think of my relationship with Qley like a startup company. You pour capital in early, you weather the losses, you work 80-hour weeks to keep the lights on, all with the faith that eventually the product will mature, the market will turn, and you'll finally see a return on investment. The ROI I was looking for wasn't money. It was just respect. It was a partnership. I was the safe option. That's what her mother, Linda, called me the first time we met. She didn't whisper it. She said it while sipping a glass of wine I had paid for, in a house I was paying the mortgage on. Qley needs stability, Linda had said, looking me up and down like I was a used Honda Civic with high mileage. You're very grounded, Mark. You're safe. Every woman needs a safe place to land after she's had her fun. At the time, I took it as a weird compliment. I was 28, making 6 figures in logistics management, and I owned my home. I thought safe meant marriage material. I didn't realize safe was code for ATM machine with a pulse. For 3 years, I funded the Qley project. I paid off her $12,000 credit card debt because it was stressing her out and blocking her creativity. I covered the lease on her car because she needed a specific brand to look professional for her job as a freelance social media consultant, a job that, as far as I could tell, actually cost us money. But the real third wheel in our relationship wasn't another man. It was Linda. Linda was a bitter divorcee who treated marriage like a hostage negotiation. She had married a wealthy man, divorced him, burned through the settlement, and was now vicariously living out her high society fantasies through Qley. And Qley? Qley was terrified of her. If Linda said the sky was green, Qley would paint the ceiling lime. The warning signs were everywhere. A month before the incident, I came home tired after a 12-hour shift. I found Qley and Linda in my living room, surrounded by shopping bags from high-end boutiques. "Oh, look, the worker bee is home," Linda said, not looking up from a silk scarf she was draping over her neck. "Hey babe," Qley said. She didn't get up. "Mom's car is in the shop, so I told her she could stay for dinner." "Oh, and we put the shopping on your Amex." My card was acting weird. Acting weird meant declined. "How much?" I asked, putting my keys down. "Don't be so transactional, Mark," Linda snapped. "It's unbecoming. A man should want his woman to look her best. You dress so drab. You don't want Qley looking like she belongs in your tax bracket, do you?" I looked at Qley. I waited for her to defend me. I waited for her to say, "Mark works hard for us, Mom." "Stop it." Qley just adjusted the scarf on her mother's neck. "Mom's right, Mark. You could be a little more generous with the attitude. We're trying to have a girl's day." I swallowed the anger. I told myself it was just stress. I told myself that once we were engaged, once it was official, the dynamic would shift. I would be the husband, the head of the household, and Linda would be relegated to the background. I was an idiot. I decided to propose on her 27th birthday. I went all in. I bought a ring that cost more than my first car, a platinum band with a diamond that required insurance. It was a stretch, financially, but I wanted to silence Linda's voice in my head. I wanted a ring that screamed, "I am not just safe. I am successful." I booked a table at Le Jardin, the most pretentious French restaurant in the city. Reservations were 3 months out. Suit required. The night of the dinner, I was nervous. I had the ring box burning a hole in my jacket pocket. But when I pulled up to the front of the restaurant to hand the keys to the valet, I saw Qley standing there. She wasn't alone. Linda was standing next to her, dressed in a gown that was arguably more flashy than Qley's. Surprise! Qley squealed as I got out of the car. Mom was feeling lonely tonight, and I couldn't just leave her at home with a microwave dinner on my birthday. I told the hostess to add a chair. My stomach dropped. "Qley, this was supposed to be a romantic dinner. Just us." Linda stepped forward, patting my cheek with a manicured hand. "Oh, relax, Mark. Don't be so possessive. You'll have her for the rest of your boring life. Let me have a night." I looked at Qley. She gave me that pleading, puppy dog look, the one she used whenever she spent too much money or broke a promise. "Please, Mark, don't ruin the vibe. Mom's excited." "Fine," I said. Fine. The dinner was a disaster from the appetizers. Linda complained about the table location. She sent the wine back, a $200 bottle, because she claimed it was corked. It wasn't. She dominated the conversation, talking about her ex-husband's new girlfriend, how tacky she was, and how Qley was destined for great things. I sat there, sipping my water, listening to them plan a future that I was paying for, but apparently not invited to emotionally. Then, the dessert menu arrived. This was my cue. I had arranged for the waiter to bring champagne. I took a deep breath. I reached into my pocket. My hand shook slightly. "Qley," I said. The chatter stopped. Qley looked at me, her eyes widening. She knew. "We've been together for 3 years." I began, my voice feeling tight. "You're the most important person in my life. I want to build a future with you. A real future." I stood up. I pulled out the velvet box. I went down on one knee right there on the marble floor. The restaurant went silent. A few people at nearby tables gasped. I opened the box. The diamond caught the chandelier light. It was beautiful. "Qley," I said, looking up at her. "Will you marry me?" For 3 seconds, there was silence. Qley looked at the ring. A smile started to form on her face. She looked happy. Then, a loud, heavy sigh cut through the room like a chainsaw. It was Linda. She was leaning back in her chair, arms crossed, looking at the ring with a mixture of boredom and pity. "Really?" Linda said. Her voice wasn't a whisper. It was a stage voice. "Now? Here." I froze. "Linda, please. I'm just being honest, honey," Linda said, turning her gaze to Qley, completely ignoring me. "Look at him. Look at this." She gestured vaguely at me, kneeling on the floor. "Is this really the finish line for you? You're 27. You're in your prime." She took a sip of her wine and delivered the kill shot. "You could do so much better than this. You need a man who matches your fire, Qley, not a man who balances your checkbook." I stayed on one knee. The humiliation washed over me like ice water. I looked at Qley. This was it. This was the moment. All she had to do was say, "Shut up, Mom. I love him." All she had to do was take my hand. Qley looked at her mother. Then she looked at the ring. Then she looked at me. And she giggled. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was a conspiratorial giggle. She covered her mouth with her hand, shook her head, and looked back at her mom. "Mom, stop. You're so bad," Qley said, grinning. She didn't say yes. She didn't tell her mother to stop. She turned back to me, her face flushing with embarrassment. Not for her mother's cruelty, but for me. "Babe," Qley said, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "Get up. You're embarrassing me." "Mom's right. Maybe we shouldn't rush this. We aren't really there yet, are we? I mean, let's talk about your 5-year plan before we do anything official." She looked at her mother for approval. Linda raised her glass in a silent toast. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It wasn't a scream. It was the sound of a heavy steel door slamming shut and locking tight. The fog cleared. I saw them. I really saw them. I saw the thousands of dollars, the emotional labor, the constant disrespect, the safe option label. I saw 2 parasites in designer clothes, feeding on a host they didn't even respect. I didn't feel sad. I felt light. "You're right," I said. Qley blinked. "What?" I stood up. I didn't brush off my knees. I snapped the velvet box shut with a loud crack. "You are absolutely right, Linda," I said, my voice calm, steady, and loud enough for the tables nearby to hear. "She can do better." I slipped the ring back into my pocket. "Mark, don't be dramatic," Qley said, rolling her eyes. "Sit down. Let's just order dessert." "No," I said. "I think I'm done." I pulled out my wallet. I took out 3 $20 bills, enough to cover my portion of the appetizers and the water I drank. I dropped the cash onto the white tablecloth. "That covers me," I said. "Enjoy the evening." "Happy birthday, Qley." I turned around and walked away. "Mark," Qley called out. It was a tone of annoyance, not fear. She thought I was throwing a tantrum. She thought I would be waiting in the car, sulking. "Let him go, Qley," I heard Linda say as I reached the door. "He's just trying to manipulate you. He'll be begging by tomorrow morning. Order the souffle." I walked out into the cool night air. I didn't go to the valet immediately. I walked a block down the street, breathing in the air, feeling my heart rate slow down. I checked my phone. 8:15 p.m. I knew their pattern. They would stay. They would order the most expensive dessert to punish me. They would drink another bottle of wine to celebrate their power over me. Then they would probably go to a club or a lounge to gossip. They wouldn't be back at my house until at least 1 a.m. Linda would probably crash in the guest room. I had 4 hours. I walked back to the valet, got my car, and drove home in silence. I didn't speed. I drove with the precision of a surgeon. When I got to the house, my house, the one I bought 3 years before I met her, I didn't sit on the couch and cry. I went straight to the garage and grabbed a roll of heavy-duty trash bags. I started in the bathroom. Her lotions, her 7 different hair irons, the makeup that stained the counter. I swept it all into a bag. I didn't organize it. I didn't wrap the fragile items. If it broke, it broke. I moved to the bedroom. Her clothes, the shoes she made me buy, the vision board she had hanging on the wall that had pictures of yachts and mansions, but no pictures of us. It all went into the bags. I worked for 2 hours straight, sweating, fueled by a cold, hard rage. I dragged the bags, 12 of them, out onto the front porch. I lined them up neatly. Then, I went to the guest room. Linda's overnight bag was there from the last time she stayed. I threw that on top of the pile. At 10:30 p.m., I called a 24-hour locksmith. I need my locks rekeyed, I told the dispatcher. Emergency service. I'll pay double. The guy arrived in 20 minutes. He was a burly guy named Mike. He looked at the pile of trash bags on the porch, then at me. Bad night, he asked. The worst, I said. Or maybe the best. I haven't decided yet. While he worked on the front door, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote the note. I went through 5 drafts. I wanted to write a manifesto. I wanted to list every dollar I spent, every insult I swallowed. I wanted to explain exactly why she was a terrible person. But then I remembered Linda's voice. He's just trying to manipulate you. He'll be begging. Any emotion I showed would be fuel for them. Anger was attention. Sadness was weakness. I needed to be a ghost. I took a Sharpie and a piece of cardboard from one of her shoe boxes. I wrote 3 words. Go do better. Mike finished the locks. I paid him $350 cash. You the owner? He asked, handing me the new keys. Sole owner, I said. Deed is in my name only. She was a guest. Good, Mike said. He nodded at the bags. Good luck, brother. I taped the note to the center bag. I turned off the porch light, went inside, and locked the deadbolt. It made a heavy, solid thud that felt better than the engagement ring ever did. I went to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and sat in the dark living room. My phone started buzzing at 11:45 p.m. It was Qley. Missed call. Missed call. Text. You are being so childish. Come pick us up. Mom's car is still at the shop and Ubers are surging. I stared at the screen. The old me would have apologized. The old me would have driven back, hat in hand, begging for forgiveness for ruining her night. I blocked the number. Then I blocked Linda. Then I blocked her sister. Then I blocked her best friend. I sat in the silence of my home. For the first time in 3 years, the air felt clean. I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of pounding on the door. Screaming. It was the muffled, hysterical shrieking of a woman who has realized the ATM is out of order. Mark, open this door. My stuff is outside. You can't do this. It was Qley. And in the background, the shrill voice of Linda. I told you. He's psychotic. Call the police. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to them rage against the solid oak door and the shiny new deadbolt. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just listened. Eventually, the pounding stopped. I heard the sound of a car door slamming, probably a very expensive Uber, and the silence returned. I closed my eyes and slept like a baby. The next morning, I woke up to a sunrise that looked sharper, brighter, and cleaner than anything I'd seen in years. The silence in the house was absolute. No reality TV blaring from the living room. No passive-aggressive comments about how I chewed my toast. Just peace. I checked my security camera footage while I made coffee. The footage from 2:15 a.m. was cinema. Qley and Linda, standing on my porch amidst the garbage bags, looking like 2 raccoons caught in a flashlight beam. Linda was pointing at the door, her face contorted in a scream the microphone barely picked up. Qley was crying. Not the cute, single-tear crying she used to get jewelry, but ugly, red-faced sobbing. They eventually loaded the 12 bags into what looked like an Uber XL and vanished. I didn't feel guilt. I felt like I had just surgically removed a tumor. I went to work early. I told HR I had a change in domestic status and removed Qley from my emergency contacts. I called my bank and canceled the supplementary card I had given her for groceries, which usually meant Sephora. At 10 a.m., the receptionist called my desk. Mark, there's a very upset young woman in the lobby. She says she's your fiancé. She doesn't have a badge. I don't have a fiancé, I said calmly. If she doesn't leave, call security. She's crying, Mark. She's making a scene. Then she's trespassing. Call security. I hung up. 10 minutes later, I saw security escorting Qley out of the building. She was wearing the same clothes from the night before, makeup smeared. She looked at the glass windows of the office, searching for me. I didn't look down. I kept typing. That was the last time I saw her for 6 months. I didn't just break up with her. I erased her. I deleted every photo. I threw out the furniture she picked out. I repainted the living room a dark, masculine navy blue. I started going to the gym, not to get a revenge body, but because I finally had the time and money to invest in myself. The fallout, as I learned later through the grapevine, was catastrophic for them. Since I had blocked them on everything, the information trickled in through mutual friends who were too messy to stay quiet. First, the living situation. Qley had nowhere to go. She had burned bridges with her roommates to move in with me, and she couldn't afford a deposit on a new place because she had zero savings. So, she moved in with Linda. Linda lived in a 2-bedroom condo that was technically owned by her alimony payments. It was small, cluttered, and radiated negative energy. Apparently, the golden duo dynamic didn't work when they were roommates. Linda was a nightmare to live with. She charged Qley rent. She criticized Qley's weight, her job, and her failure to lock me down. Without my income, Qley's lifestyle collapsed overnight. The lease on her luxury car? I stopped the payments. The leasing company repossessed it 3 weeks later. She had to take the bus to her consulting gigs, which quickly dried up because she looked exhausted and desperate. But the real karma hit about 3 months in. I was at a hardware store buying supplies for my new deck when I bumped into Sarah, one of Qley's old friends. Sarah had always been kind of neutral. She tolerated Linda, but clearly thought the whole dynamic was weird. Mark? She asked, looking shocked to see me. Wow, you look good. I feel good, Sarah, I said, putting a box of screws in my cart. She hesitated, then leaned in. Look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but did you hear about the upgrade? I chuckled. The what? Linda set her up, Sarah whispered. About a month after you kicked them out. Linda told Qley she needed to get back on the horse and find a high-value man. She set her up with this guy named Julian. Told Qley he was a crypto investor or something. I leaned against the shelf. Let me guess. He wasn't. Sarah grimaced. Oh, he was rich. Or he acted like it. He took them both out to dinner. Linda was drooling over him. He drove a Maserati. Qley thought she had won the lottery. She was posting all over Instagram about how she finally found someone on her level. And he was a scammer, Sarah said. Like a literal con artist. He dated Qley for 6 weeks, convinced her to take out a personal loan to invest in his new coin, and then vanished. He took the money, ghosted her, and left her with a $15,000 debt. Linda is furious because he borrowed one of her credit cards too. I felt a cold, hard satisfaction settle in my chest. That's unfortunate. She's in a bad place, Mark, Sarah said softly. She's working at a diner now? Linda is threatening to kick her out because she can't pay the rent. I nodded. Well, she wanted better. Sometimes better is a steep learning curve. I paid for my screws and left. 6 months post-breakup, I was a different person. My savings account was healthy. My skin was clear. I was dating a woman named Elena, a pediatrician I met at a running club. Elena drove a beat-up Toyota, split the bill on our first date without asking, and hated drama. It was the easiest, most peaceful relationship of my life. I hadn't thought about Qley in weeks. Then came the wedding. It was a mutual friend's wedding, someone from my college days who had unfortunately stayed friends with Qley too. I knew she might be there. I almost didn't go. But then I looked in the mirror, adjusted my tie, and thought, why should I hide? I brought Elena. We looked great. We were laughing, holding hands, drinking champagne. I saw Qley during the cocktail hour. She looked older. Her hair was dull. Her dress looked cheap and ill-fitting. She was standing alone near the bar, nursing a drink, looking around the room with anxious eyes. She wasn't the center of attention anymore. She was just a guest. She saw me. Her eyes locked onto me. then drifted to Elena, then back to me. I saw the recognition hit her like a physical blow. She saw the new suit. She saw the relaxed posture. She saw the happiness. She put her drink down and walked straight toward me. Elena squeezed my hand. Is that her? Yeah, I said. Do you mind giving me a minute? I'll get us refills, Elena said, kissing my cheek before walking away. Class act. Qley stopped 2 feet in front of me. Up close, she looked tired. There were bags under her eyes. Mark, she said. Her voice wavered. Qley, I said. My tone was polite, professional. You look amazing, she said. She tried to smile, but her lip trembled. I heard you got promoted. I did. That's great. Really? She took a breath. Look, Mark. I know I messed up. I know I let my mom get in my head. But, God, it's been a nightmare. That guy Julian, he ruined me. I'm living on my mom's couch. She screams at me every day. I miss the peace we had. I miss us. She reached out to touch my arm. I took a half step back. I miss feeling safe, she whispered. You were always my safety. I didn't appreciate it until it was gone. Can we just get coffee? Just talk? Please. I'm drowning here. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had giggled while her mother humiliated me. I looked at the woman who saw me as an insurance policy, not a partner. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the need to yell at her or list her crimes. No, I said. She blinked, tears welling up. What? No coffee. No talking. I checked my watch. Qley, you didn't want safety. You wanted status. You made a gamble. You bet that you could find someone better than me. You lost that bet. You don't get to cash out your chips and come back to the table just because you're broke. But I love you, she sobbed a little too loudly. People were starting to look. You don't love me, I said simply. You love that I paid your bills. You love that I took your mother's abuse so you didn't have to. I leaned in slightly, keeping my voice low but firm. That night at the restaurant, when you laughed, that was the most honest moment of our relationship. You agreed you could do better. I am honoring your wish. I am letting you go find better. Don't insult me by coming back now that you realize it doesn't exist. Mark, please, excuse me, I said. My girlfriend is waiting for me. I walked past her. I didn't look back. I found Elena by the bar. She handed me a drink and looked at me with a raised eyebrow. Everything okay? I looked back across the room. Qley was standing where I left her, wiping her eyes, looking small and defeated. Linda wasn't there to save her. Julian wasn't there to save her. She was finally, truly, on her own. Yeah, I said, taking Elena's hand. Everything is perfect. We danced the rest of the night. I never heard from Qley again. Last I heard, she moved to a different state to live with an aunt because Linda finally kicked her out. As for the ring, I returned it the day after the breakup. I used the refund to put a down payment on a rental property. It pays me $1,200 a month in profit. That was the only ROI I ever got from that relationship. And honestly, it was worth it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.